Hello and welcome to Billy Ho Sports. Now that we have completed most, if not all, of the Kentucky Derby prep races, I thought it was time that we go ahead and rank the top 10 contenders. We still do have one more prep race coming this Saturday, which is the Lexington Stakes, but it's really only going to decide probably who's in, who's out, like the bubble in the NCAA tournament. Hades has a chance if he wins the race to get in, things of that nature. So thank you for joining me as we reflect back on past events, updating this Derby leaderboard. This is a pretty good top 10. I kind of went into a pretty good deep dive on it, so I'm hoping it's going to be pretty solid. This and every Derby video will be on my playlist, so always be looking for my stuff there. Makes it much easier to find everything. So I think it's not only the helpful, for just upcoming races that I preview, but obviously now that we've completed these, you can go back and rewatch some of these preview videos, the analysis and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to assist you in the progress of these horses over the last several months. So as we approach the first Saturday in May, we're going to see how these horses got there. As always, please subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and let's get to it. I gave each horse in the top 10 my very own little BHS Billy Ho Sports rating. I just kind of put together a little speed figures, how impressed I was in their last prep race, which track they were coming out of, the race they were coming out of previously, points for Churchill Downs' past experience as well. So coming in at number 10 is your Wood Memorial winner, Resilience. This Bill Mott trained colt got a break, I think, with the scratch of El Grande O, and was able to move over to post position number 2 and got some of the speed that was right next to him on the inside there out of the way. He took full advantage of that. Got a great ground saving trip on the inside, and I did mention that would be a possibility in the preview show, but he actually rated just off the pace. He swung outside, perfect closing position, and a lot went down in the stretch, including the number 12 deposition, which I think compromised number 13, Uncle Heavy, and probably cost him a slot in the Kentucky Derby, because he didn't need but maybe a second or a third to score his ticket. So it cost him dearly coming down the stretch, as the 12-horse deposition was right next to him, and you can't see from the video because they cut it out, but I was watching it live, and they were going right next, and Uncle Heavy was coming down the stretch, closing pretty decently until that happened. So other horses that took advantage, the Bomb Society Man, he's going to get into the Kentucky Derby because he got second place, finishing with the 50 points there. Now, other things that are in Resilience's favor, experience at Churchill. He ran versus horses like Nash, Stronghold, and Track Phantom. Race back on October 1st, was a one-turn mile. He ran really good in that race. He was only beaten, I believe, by Stronghold, and he showed a lot of what the ability that we saw last Saturday. So he ran right by Track Phantom in the end to finish second behind Stronghold in that race. Pretty solid number 10 Resilience in my rankings. Number 9 is going to be Just a Touch, the Brad Cox colt. Back-to-back second place finishes in major prep races. Lightly raced horse, the second in the slop at the Gotham track, showed what he could do. And then he went over to Keeneland and showed improvement, running just off the lead there again. And he was only defeated by that explosive closer, Sierra Leone, looking a lot like Forte did coming into the race last year with the way he just chews up dirt down the stretch. Sierra Leone is very similar in that nature. He just, no lead is safe with that horse on the track. But speaking of Resilience, he did put himself in good position at 3 different racetracks. So he actually broke his maiden at Fairgrounds previous to all this, and the Kentucky Derby will be his fourth start. Next up is number 8, Endlessly, trained by Mike McCarthy. He has 5 wins in 6 starts. His only hiccup coming in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That was a poor effort, but it was a juvenile. So the move to the all-weather track has not slowed him down once he made the move over from the turf. He won both the El Camino Real Derby and Golden Gate, and then obviously he finished it off with that 4-length impressive score at Turfway in the Jeff Ruby. Now, keep this in mind. 2022 Kentucky Derby winner Rich Strike, 2023 runner-up 2 Phils, both came out of the Jeff Ruby stakes race to the Kentucky Derby. So it can be done. We've seen it. All right. Now, number 7, interesting horse, the Japan-bred colt, Forever Young. Trainer Yoshito Yahagi is no stranger to big wins in his own right. He's got 2 Breeders' Cup champions to his credit. Undefeated, Forever Young. The big obstacle he's going to uncover is the travel. He'll be arriving this week sometime, probably by way of that win in the UAE Derby on March 30th. Once again, an epic come from behind, similar. He is kind of a similar horse in the come from behind, late charging horses like Derma Sotogake and Ushba Tesoro that we all came to know last year on the Breeders' Cup Trail. Now, he appears to be a better horse, more advanced in his career, in my opinion. So I think both those closing efforts, the one that he did to beat Bookham Dano was impressive, and that one where he closed it out down the stretch in the UAE Derby, equally good. This horse has all the tools to compete well in the Kentucky Derby. So if he can get here, get acclimated, and not have any issues with the travel, I think he's got a shot to be in the mix. Number 6, coming in, Honor Marie, trained by Whit Beckman, coming off an excellent 2-year-old campaign. That win at the Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill last fall, points for experience. Entered the Risen Star at Fairgrounds with high expectations, but did not quite have his A game that day. He finished 5th by like over 6 lengths. Not very good, but the second off the layoff and stretching out to the 1 3/16 distance, Honor Marie came from off the pace to the inside of Catching Freedom to the far outside. You can see both of those horses. They hit the stretch run, and it's those two you can see coming. And then once they get into the picture, Catching Freedom is on the far outside and Honor Marie is right to the inside. They both rallied up to the lead, but Catching Freedom was able to kick his way clear to win the race. That brings us to number 5, Just Steel, trained by Dwayne Lucas. He's looked pretty good in his prep races, I'd say, with the exception of the 2 races back, where I think he came back a little bit too soon, disappointing 7th. He was only on 3 weeks rest then. Then they gave him a full 4.5 weeks or so, bounced back in a big way, and the Arkansas Derby with a very strong second place finish behind Muth. He was clearly the second best horse in that race, even better than Timberlake that day. And obviously Muth is arguably one of the best 3-year-old colts in the country. So we got to give him his credit where credit is due. This would be a great bookend win for Dwayne Lucas, where he'll have his 5th Derby champion. He hasn't had one since 1999. That was Charismatic. This one is sired by a Triple Crown winner, Justify. He's faced the best of the best. That's definitely true. Success at Churchill Downs as well as a 2-year-old. And one to keep an eye on, kind of a wise guy. I think he'll get some play, actually. He's been getting a lot of talk lately. Now, let's get down into it. Number 4, Stronghold, sired by Ghost Zapper, trained by Philip D'Amato. This one just continues to improve, continues to impress. His effort in the Santa Anita Derby was just epic, the way he broke through horses, and went head to head with the best horse Bob Baffert had to offer, Imagination, who was like the 4-5 favorite. They hooked up down the stretch, and it was all those two. And Stronghold was able to push ahead to solidify his place in this top five. That race was one of the ones that did it for me. Most of his successes have come from out of California, but he did earn his maiden win at Churchill Downs going a mile, where he beat Resilience and Track Phantom on October 1st. So he's beat some of these top contenders at Churchill Downs. So there's no reason why this one won't be on your radar. I think he ought to be decent value, 6-8 to 1. I'd say somewhere in that neighborhood. So I'm going to keep an eye on the tote board. Maybe we can get him up to double digits, because Philip D'Amato, if you don't follow racing, excellent trainer, but maybe not everybody knows Philip D'Amato because they know Bob Baffert, they know Ty Pletcher, they know Brad Cox, even Steve Asmussen. Your casual fans might not know Philip D'Amato. So, moving on. Number 3, Catching Freedom. This is trained by Brad Cox. Closed very well down the stretch at Fairgrounds to win the Louisiana Derby, and that was the one he outkicked Honor Marie by a length. Made up for that third place finish in the Risen Star, where he got passed up by Sierra Leone. His previous score in the Smarty Jones at Oaklawn was equally good. That late rally shows not far from the likes of Sierra Leone, the way he can run them down late. Stakes wins at multiple tracks. The Louisiana Derby going 1 mile and 3/16, which is a hair bit longer than most of these horses have gone. That's as close as you can get to the classic distance. So I think he's primed to come back to Churchill Downs, where he broke his maiden last fall, to run a good race. So there's another one that you might get. I think he'll be more your 4-to-1, 7-to-2 type, though. He's going to get a lot of play with Brad Cox. Number 2, Sierra Leone, sired by Gunrunner, trained by Chad Brown. Gobbles up that ground late in races, doesn't he? Similar to how Forte, like I mentioned before, was leading up to the Derby 149. If you remember going back to the Florida Derby last year, Mage makes the big move to get the lead in the stretch, and Forte is just chews it up late and runs him down, just like Sierra Leone does. So I really do like the similarities between those two. Of course, unfortunately, Forte had the hoof crack. Excuse me, had to scratch from the Derby, and really his career was never quite on track from there. But so he was Sierra Leone. He was defeated by Dornoch back in December in the Remsen, but he showed how much improvement he's made in that Toyota Bluegrass last Saturday. Just a touch, hit the stretch drive in the lead, running another excellent race for him. And as we've seen from the Powerful Colt, no lead is safe. He ran down his rival for the win. So I think he's going to be a top choice, obviously 1 or 2. I think Fierceness will get the established 3-to-1, maybe morning line. And then you're talking about 5-to-2, 3-to-1 in that range, 3-to-5-to-1 on all these top colts. So number 1, I'm giving the nod to Fierceness. Repo Stables is the owner. Todd Pletcher trains. This might be the redemption for the unfortunate scratching of Forte last year. Same connections. Fierceness looked obviously really good. Some are going to say that he hasn't put back-to-back races together, and that would not set him up well for the Kentucky Derby, but he's maturing. I think he folded as late as March 28th, I believe. So I feel like he's a much more mature horse. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he's put together 2 explosive monster races in his career. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile was the first one where he came out, and then I think we've all discussed that he wasn't quite up to tip-top shape in the Holy Bull. He had lost a little weight, I think, what the connection said. So he wasn't quite up to his full strength. but he still ran pretty well. He actually had a bad break. He got pushed wide around the first turn. He had then Hades got all the ground saving trip and had all the horse left down the stretch. So when those two hooked up, Fierceness just didn't. It was like he was running with ankle weights on versus his rival there. And we saw Hades, what he did to Hades in the net following race. So domestic product ran by him, but he still finished third. So that Derby romp by 13, I think it was a performance that leaves a mark on you. Hindsight might not have been the strongest field, but we don't really know what Catalytic's going to do because he's pretty lightly raced, but a strong finish from him. Hades is going to go out next week in Lexington and try to get his ticket. And but the way he overpowered that field and just had that race put away by the 3/4 pole could be how he wins this Kentucky Derby. Not saying he's going to go by 13 lengths, but he could have that lead down the stretch and be uncatchable and maybe take it home by 2 or 2.5 lengths, something of that nature right now. But I don't dismiss any of these other horses, obviously, and I might tweak and adjust. You've seen along the way the ratings numbers I gave all 10 horses kind of rounds it out. So if you want to leave a comment and let me know if you've got any other horses in or out, feel free to do so. Now, what I will say, the last 2 Kentucky Derby winners have come from back of the pack, but the previous 7 before that have been closer to the field. So that's why I got a nice top 10 here. I got a good balance between early speed and late closers. So I'm hoping this is going to give you a good starting point in your Derby research, which is always helpful. Be on the lookout for more videos. I'm going to cover the Lexington Stakes here soon. That's worth just 20 to the winner, but it could mean a lot to Hades. And it could decide who's in, who's out for the 2024 Kentucky Derby. We still don't know where everybody lands, and there might be some scratches. Hopefully it won't be like last year. So anyway, I thank you for watching, and until next time, see you soon.